Welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and of course, we are listening to Von Radio, the voice of Nevis, www.vonradio.com, or 860 on your AM dial. It is just about 8 o'clock, or about 2 minutes past 8 on our clock here at Von Radio, and this is another edition of our show, a show that has come to you now for over a decade, and a show that we hope is adding some value to the level of debate and discussion in our country. I like to say that the discussion is important, that freedom of speech is one of the pillars on which our democracy is built, and that shows like these and others that exist in the Federation add value because they allow the man and woman out there to call in from the relative anonymity and comfort of their homes and share their views on a wide range of topics and a wide range of issues. We have introduced this Facebook Live, and so all these shows now are broadcast live as well. So you're not only hearing me, you're also seeing me. It means that every Wednesday now I have to put on a decent shirt and comb my hair, and I can't be raggedy. I have to come and look my best. I want to say good evening, of course, to all the legions of fans out there who listen to the show and the people who make this radio station their home, particularly from 8 to 10 on a Wednesday. I want to say a hello to friends in Jamaica who are listening. I want to say hello to friends in England who are listening. I want to say hello to my dear friend Ursula there in Georgia, and to say that we are also, I'm told, on YouTube, not just on Facebook Live. So we are YouTubing, we are Facebooking, and certainly you can listen to us as well online or listen to us on the radio. I want to say good evening as well to all of our friends and family in the U.S., people like Dr. Shad, Sadio, Dr. Huggins, good friend here, Dion, Mervan, the whole group, the whole crew there, my sisters in New York. I want to say hello to all of them, my brothers there as well, my aunt, all who are tuned in, Uncle Lloydie, if you're listening, Uncle Lloydie, good night to you. Good night to everyone. Those in Florida, those up there in Boston and places like Connecticut. Wherever you are, good evening to you. I want to especially say good evening to those in the Virgin Islands, U.S. and British. I know in the British Virgin Islands the politics down there is heating up, and they expect a poll, I believe, sometime soon. Those, of course, who are in Sunshine City, St. Martin, those in Anguilla, Sebastacia, and Montserrat and the neighboring islands who listen. Of course, coming closer to home, good evening to those in St. Kitts who listen and who, in fact, call the show. In fact, someone told me the other day that we now have more Kittitians calling the show than we do Nevisians. But I always want to remind people that despite the issue of who calls, many people are listening. And a lot of people send me messages, they inbox me, they send words of encouragement, they send words of departure from maybe issues or positions that have been advanced, etc. I want to say good evening to all the people here in Nevis, Queen City. It's a beautiful night here, and certainly I hope and trust that all is well with our people, and that we continue to live well with each other, continue to look out for each other, and continue to be the best society that we can be. I want especially to greet my friends up there in Church Ground, those in Brown Hill, those in Bath Village, and those who are throughout my constituency, Cox and Coal Hill, and the neighborhoods there in Braziers and elsewhere, and to say thank you to them for their continued support and continued assistance over all these years. I want to also say good evening to the good people of St. Paul's who have also been with me consistently over all these years at the federal level, and to thank them for their support. Good evening, of course, to all the other people, good people of Gingerland, St. George's Parish, good people of St. James, and the good people of St. Thomas's. Good evening to one and all. I'm hopeful that this evening we can have a good discussion. I'm hopeful that folks will take the opportunity to call in. We have 2 hours, and I often remind persons that we have 2 hours of commercial-free talk radio. So you really have an opportunity to call in and share your views and opinions, and to get an opportunity to talk for as long as possible. This is primetime radio, and when I say the world is listening, it's because it is so. A lot of people tune into the show. It is a widely listened to show, and we have, through the power of the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, we have increased the opportunities for people to listen by adding, of course, the Facebook Live and adding YouTube and the like. And so I certainly encourage one and all to call in and be a part of the show. I start with some sad news. We learned just yesterday that one of the young men who was shot on the 1st of January in a terrible act of violence that occurred on the start of the new year here, January 1st, that one of those youngsters succumbed to his injuries yesterday, meaning therefore that we've had, after several months of no murders in the country, we've had the first murder, the first homicide in the country, and not only in the country but in the island of Nevis for the year 2019. New Year's Day, 1st of January. It is the worst possible way that the island can start the new year. It is the worst possible way that the families of those affected can start the new year. 2 youngsters were attacked and shot about their bodies, and the 2 youngsters have been in the hospital since then, fighting for their lives. One, sadly, yesterday succumbed. I would want to, at this moment, share my condolences with the mother and father, Angela, and with Naya. Naya is my good friend. Angela is someone I know. I don't think that any parent should have to bury their child. I don't think any parent should be put in that position. And I continue to use my voice and to appeal to our youngsters to put down these foolish disputes and put down these guns that they have now taken up and going after each other as if they're animals and not human beings. I want those youngsters who would have attacked these 2, and I believe that the police know who they are, and I am hopeful that the police will get the necessary evidence to deal with them. But I want to say to them, because maybe they're listening, and if they're not listening, maybe their parents or relatives are listening, that you have taken a life. And I, at my age, have no idea what it's like to do that. And I want you to ponder what lies in store for you. Because oftentimes we get caught up with emotion. We get caught up with this tit-for-tat culture that has developed. We get caught up with who diss us and who doesn't like us. And we seek to exact the ultimate price, which is to take someone's life. It cannot be right. It cannot be just. It cannot be proper. It is unjust and improper in the eyes of God and in the eyes of man. And you youngsters who would have committed this crime, if you're hearing me or if your families are hearing me, I want you to know that this is on your hands, and that this young man's death is on your hands, and that which we sow, we will also reap. We cannot expect to go through this life causing harm to others, wreaking vengeance on people, seeking to attack and to extract from people the ultimate sacrifice, which is their life, and expect that we ourselves will remain untouched. What we do always comes back to us. And so if you're listening, I want that message to be clear. As the Premier of Nevis, I had the terrible task of informing colleagues of what had happened. The island of Nevis, our island, has the unfortunate history now of having recorded the first homicide for 2019. It is a dubious distinction, it seems, that has continued to plague the island of Nevis. And I am again appealing to those who are out there who have set their foot on this path of crime and violence, that there is no value in it. That today you might feel strong because you're the ones pulling the trigger. But tomorrow because there will always be a tomorrow. You might be the one now at the other end of the gun. It does you no good. It does the island no good. It does the country no good. And all the gains that we have made and all the talk that we've talked about good governance and prosperity, all of that is to no avail if you continue on the path on which you have embarked. Some make all kinds of arguments. Some say people don't have work. Some say there's not opportunity. Some say it is a result of poverty. I don't buy any of those arguments. I am not a sociologist. I'm not a psychologist. I am not any kind of ologist. But I believe that we all know right from wrong. We all know what is right, and we all know what is wrong. And anybody who could plot and scheme and go out and acquire an illegal weapon and go with that illegal weapon about the place to commit these types of crimes knows what he or she is doing and knows that it is wrong. They know. For those who enable them to do what they do, hide their gun, maybe help pay them for the gun, help buy the gun for them, always have an excuse for them. Not my child, not my son. My son was here all night tonight. Not my boyfriend. You two know right from wrong. You know right from wrong. And too many parents who have pretended that they don't know what the children are involved in. And note the language that I'm using. Who have pretended that they don't know what their children are involved in. Then they show up and they say, look at the situation. My son is now being charged with something. My son have to go. So all of a sudden, they need lawyer money, and lawyer money not cheap. Lawyer money is $50,000 and $60,000 and $100,000. It's not cheap. Many people have had to go and mortgage a home, sell a little piece of land the grandmother leave for them. And I ask you the question rhetorically. Would it not have been cheaper to talk to your picnic? Would it not have been cheaper to discipline your child and ensure that they go in the way that you want them to go? Would that not have been cheaper than to go and sell the little piece of land that your grandpa left for you to pay lawyer fee? Or to go face the bank to take $70,000 and $80,000 and $90,000 in order to pay lawyer fee? Or worse, to go and have to pay Hunkins or Blackie. It's far cheaper to talk to your children, to ensure that your children walk in the path that you know they ought to walk, to ensure that those timeless lessons that we were all taught of right and wrong, that they become a part of the psyche and the ethos of your children, of our communities, and of our island and nation. We have to do this, and we have to do it together. Because this crime and criminality, really, it benefits no one. It ultimately, for the criminals, leads one of two places, either in the jailhouse or at the cemetery. And if you're in jail, you're not contributing in any way to the society. And if you're in the cemetery, you certainly can't contribute in any way to the society. When a young man, as this young man, I'm told he was just in his 20s. When life is lost at that stage, you have not yet blossomed. You have not yet had a chance to contribute. Your parents, who might have invested in you over the years, they have not seen you grow and become all that you can be. Sometimes these youngsters have children. Who is to raise those children? When they are in the cemetery, or they're down in St. Kitts in an overcrowded cell. These are things that I want our people to think about. Because why are our youngsters attacking each other? foolishness. Oh, I was Juve and the man disrespect me. Disrespect? Is that worth killing over? Is that worth losing your life over? Is that worth going to jail over? Disrespect? So when you're in jail with 10 other men fighting to get a bunk, and you could have been home in your mother's house, lying down in your bedroom, playing video game, or watching Flow TV or Digicel TV, and you consider that here's where you have arrived because somebody dissed you. Is that really what we want, and does that make sense to you? When you leave your family, $100,000 lawyer bill, or worse, $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 funeral bill. For what? Because somebody dissed you? This is the illogic, the nonsensical approach that we're getting from some of these youngsters. And if I use language that is offensive, it's because I mean to offend. We have to call it for what it is. It is foolishness. It is nonsense. The behavior, there is no good in it. You're not some Robin Hoods protecting somebody. That's not the case. You are committing crimes which are absolutely stupid. You get no value from it, and the society gets no value from it. So why are you doing it? And why are you squandering your young lives, headed to jail or headed to the cemetery over it? I have talked, ladies and gentlemen, and I have talked. I have had countless meetings with all who would be willing to meet. I have talked when I was in opposition. I've continued to talk now that I'm in government. Whilst I've never had any responsibility for national security, as a Premier of Nevis, I have not shirked or shied away. I have said, yes, I do not have a budget, but I have a voice. And whatever resources that we can take from other areas, we are made available, whether it's with vehicles or otherwise, to the police. Even now, the Nevis Island administration is struggling mightily to build a police station in Newcastle. Why? Because we are committed. The administration has hitherto built a police station in Gingerland. It has built barracks at Bath. It has built a police station in Cotton Ground. The Nevis Island administration has played and continues to play its part. It has provided police vehicles. We have just completed the construction of the CCTV center. We have invested, and we continue to invest, even though we have no line item in our budget for national security. We have done that because we feel it's the right thing to do. And that we can't just sit by and wring our hands and say, woe is me, when we have a situation that needs addressing. But we've equally said that no government, no police, no army, no security force can do it on its own. And I always use the example when I talk about this, that even in the great United States of America, whenever a crime happens, the first line of defense is to ask for the assistance of the public. The minute a robbery or something happens, you see, the videos, they go out. A description goes out. This is how the artist rendering of the assailant looks. Can you help us? Because even in major countries with all the force, all the money, all the technology available to them, they understand that it is ultimately the responsibility of the communities themselves to aid in the fight against crime. So you see these signs, see something, say something. You walk through the airports, they say, if you see a bag left unattended, bring it to the attention. They are, in essence, deputizing the entire community. In politics, they call me the sheriff. Well, everybody now becomes a deputy sheriff because the entire community is engaged in this fight against crime. And I'm saying so too must it be in our country. So too must it be in Brown Hill and in Bath and in Zion and in Jessops. So too must it be throughout the length and breadth of the country. Whether you're in McKnight, Spooners, Tabernacle, Keon, wherever you may be, you have a role to play. Indeed, let me forget about saying you have a role. You have a duty to your country to assist in this fight. I am not asking you to be a hero. I'm not asking you to run out and say that you're a detective. But I'm asking you simply to give the police and the security forces your support. Because I continue to say that I am persuaded that in the vast majority of crimes committed in this country, people know who did it. They saw something, they heard something, and in many cases, they're people who have aided and abetted. The young girls who come out at the party to make a call and say, oh, the person you're looking for is up here, aiding and abetting crime. The young girl who says, give me the gun, because they're not going to search me the way they search you. Aiding and abetting crime. The mother or father who hides the contraband, hides the stolen, the proceeds of the robbery, and then carry on with the police and with everybody else and bring down all God, that their son is Jesus Christ come back to earth. When they know it's a little bad boy them have in the house, a little criminal they have in the house. But they bring down all God as if Jesus is reborn. They know they're aiding and abetting crime. And I am saying that enough is enough. I would like for us to get back to a stage when we can go through an entire year without any crime, without any violence. I am hoping that we can get to that stage. Because there is no economic value to the crime. There is no sense to it in the sense of people are doing it to somehow get ahead in life. All that people are shooting each other for and attacking each other over on this, the halcyon Isle of Nevis, is foolishness. Man diss me. Eh? Man I try to trouble my girl. This kind of nonsense is what people are attacking people over. He from this village, he can't come in my village. Where your own village somewhere? I don't think you're still sleeping in your mother's house. But how come your own village and you can't own a house of your own? As I said, if I'm sounding like I'm offensive, it's because I mean to offend. I want to shock our sensibilities and ask our people to wake up. You're going to tell me because I come from Rollins, I can't go Cotton Ground. If I'm from Cotton Ground, I can't go Rollins. Why? You own Rollins? You own Cotton Ground? When you sleeping in your ma house and getting breakfast, lunch and dinner from your ma, well, how it is, you could tell other people they can't come in there. What have you done to show that you yourself are advancing and making something of yourself? People talk about poverty. People talk about lack of opportunity. I see all of those as excuses. You know why I say so? You know why I say that those things are excuses? I don't see no poverty right now in Nevis. This might be controversial. But I don't see any poverty right now in Nevis the way we used to have poverty when I was small. You hear what I tell you? I don't see nobody in Nevis now walking, going to school barefoot. Pavement hot, nothing hot like when sun hit concrete. And that hot concrete hit your bare feet. I don't see that now. I don't see nobody going to school now with book leaf, book cut in two, pushed down in their back pocket. Sometimes you walk in, especially when the dry season, Your whole foot, your leg covered with dust. You're black but you look white. I am talking about poverty of a kind that was widespread. And I'm not seeking by so saying to minimize the fact that we have amongst us the poor. Because since the times of old, stated in the Bible, we have had the poor amongst us. I am simply using the way things were in Nevis. People now had electricity. Very few of us had even running water. Every morning. And those who are listening, Eric Evelyn, if you're listening. My cousin, Clive Booger Evelyn, if you're listening. Fellas on Hanley's Road, Johnny Ringo, if you're in England and you're listening. Eddie, if you're up in Rollins listening, you all know I'm not telling any lie. That we used to have to get up at the crack of dawn as children. I was born in a little place called Scarborough, down Hanley's Road. And we get up before the sun rises to walk from Scarborough all the way up to what we call Market Shop, just at the foot of Rollins, where there was a water tank, a dam. And that is where you had to go, fill up your little container, and then walk from there back to Scarborough. Some came from even farther down the road, from Sheriff and places like those. And we all used to get together before the sun come up, walk. I don't know how long it is, but to my little feet then, it felt like 10 miles. But we used to walk up that hill to Market Shop, fill up our little container. At my age, a little boy of 7, 8, I could only carry the little, what we used to call, gallon pan. That's a pan of paint. The gallon tin that the paint comes in. So I got my little gallon pan. That's all I could carry. And you walk all the way up there. There was a lady from Long Hanley's Road. I remember her well. We used to call her Gina. Beautiful, beautiful woman. And Gina, I've always marveled over the years. She used to have something called a wad, a white turban that you would make from, it's of cloth, and you make it into a circle, and you put that on your head. And you know why that was? To cushion the weight of the bucket or kit that you would have on your head, filled with water. And then Gina would have that on her head, and no hands holding it, because in each of her hands she would have 2 more buckets, 1 in each. Bucket in right hand, bucket in left hand, and the bucket on her head on the wad. And then we used to put B-bush, what we have around here called B-bush, put it on top of the water to try and prevent the water from splashing out as we walk. I see people like Gina walk from Market Shop straight back down to Henley, and not 1 drop of water spill. Now, I don't want to get into too much reminiscing, but I'm saying that to say that we were all poor people. The reason why we were walking to Market Shop, because none of us had no name running water in our houses. The whole village. We didn't have any of those luxuries. When we had a little house up on 4 stones, lived in by my mother, my uncle, my 2 sisters then, and myself. And that little house, to finally get electricity in that house, was my godfather, Spencer Evelyn, who one time, I don't know how he did it, got a meter from the electricity department and bought it for my mother. So when I hear people now saying they're poor, they ain't got no opportunity, they ain't got nothing to do. Every village in Nevis now have basketball court. Some have tennis, some have netball, some have cricket field. We now put lights so you don't have to play in day, you could play at night. When I moved to Brownhill, fellas like Nutsy, Drunken, Astro, Bingy, Yaba, all of us used to be on a basketball court in Brownhill playing by moonlight. By moonlight. Man playing basketball barefoot. I don't have any need to come here and tell lies. That was our reality. When I moved to Brownhill, I had to walk from Brownhill to Charlestown Secondary School every morning. And you don't want to see us, cooping. Mrs. Christine Springer, who was the principal, she was my next door neighbor. And sometimes, if she's not in too much of a rush, or it's not too many of us, she would stop and give us a lift. But you're cooping. Our beloved Deputy Governor General, Hailita Liebert, and her husband, Elmo Liebert. You know how good you feel when they stop and you get a ride to school? We don't have no school bus taking nobody anywhere. You got yourself to school, and in the afternoon to get home, you got nearly 40 people jump on the back of a little red pickup that Bellot had. And Bellot driving slower than you could walk. So some man jump on the pickup, jump back off, talk to the girlfriend, run and jump back on the pickup again, jump back off. This was our reality. We don't have no laptop. We don't have no Nike sneaker. So we have to consider that with the abject poverty, that was our reality. But guess what? We don't kill nobody. We don't kill nobody. Everybody lived good together. Our parents weren't working. I believe it was much later in my life that my mother got a job in town. And that was not unusual. Things were hard in Nevis. Rough. But people looked out for each other. And then you had the differences with your partner. You had a little fist fight or whatever in school. But that is where it ended. We had manners. We had respect. And we conducted ourselves in a particular way. No man I see on the block can tell you the boss things bad with me. And I'm wear $500 sneaker up on them foot. The boss me can't pay me child support. But every cent you get, you go and you buy weed to smoke. As I said, people may not like to hear these things, but these are the realities. And we must start to talk to our people hard. Talk to them over and over so that they start to understand that these are the realities of life. Don't tell me it's poverty got you killing a man. What poverty have to do with that? If you're hungry and you go in a supermarket and steal something to eat, I could say, well, bossy man was hungry. But how poverty caused you to get up out of your bed, plot and scheme to go and kill a man? What poverty have to do with that? What opportunity has to do with that? The police will tell you that some of the people they suspect as being involved in criminal activity are working. So it can't be that. Can't be that. So ladies and gentlemen, I am tired of excuses. I don't want to know who shoot who dog and who kill who cat. I think this tit for tat nonsense, we as a community have to say enough is enough. We have to say that it is nonsense. And the excuses that people continue to give about, oh, it's ghetto people, oh, you don't understand life, and whatever. When I grew up in Brownhill, they refer to Brownhill as the ghetto. That's how they refer to Brownhill. I have said it a million times and I'm going to keep saying it. That when I went to school, high school, I used to like a young lady. And the young lady made a mistake, one big mistake. She took me home one day. Little boy in my uniform, and I was very polite. Skinny. Polite. And I went there and said, good afternoon. And the father asked one question, where you from? And I said, Brownhill. He said, don't come back here. End of story. Where you from? Brownhill. Don't come back here. And any thought I had in my mind at the time of romance went out my head. because I couldn't go back there. That was our reality. Why do you think the man tell me to come back there? Brownhill a ghetto? And I am pleased tonight to go on record and say that as hard as things were in Brownhill, I don't hear about Brownhill people killing nobody. Think about it. I don't hear about Brownhill people engaging in that. You may say a Brownhill man drink some Hammond. You may say he smokes some weed. But you never hear that Brownhill people engaging in that kind of violence and that kind of activity. And it's hard to find another community that grew up as poor as Brownhill and Brownhillians were. But out of that, we get lawyer, we get magistrate, we get deputy governor, we get premier, we get all kinds of things. People have gone on, engineers, doctors, business owners, to make something of themselves. So what I am saying, ladies and gentlemen, and what the point that I'm seeking to drill home for those who are listening, and if you're not listening, please, if you're listening, tell those who are not listening. The point that I'm trying to drill home is a simple point. That in life it is not where you're from, it is where you're headed. We of this island called Nevis, and of this wider country called St. Kitts and Nevis, are not limited by the circumstances of our birth. We are only limited by the extent of our ambitions. And not a soul can tell you, whether you're in Taba, you're in Molyneux, you're in Saddlers, you're in wherever, not a soul can tell you that because you're born poor, that you must be a criminal. That because you're born and your parents don't have the money and the resources, that you cannot grow up to be whatever it is you set your mind to be. I have said, it's one of the most inspirational things that I've heard. A lot of people that look to Barack Obama and John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King and things. No. I like to look right here in my own community, in my own country, because there's inspiration around every corner, if only we're willing to see it. And I recall being at the Prime Minister's Gala, and there's a young doctor called Dr. Redman. And I sat there transfixed, not because of his eloquence, although he was eloquent. I sat there transfixed because of his story. And when this young man started to talk about where he come from, and the kind of a mattress he used to sleep on. Huh? How many people now in Nevis talking about their poor and his poverty that got them committing these heinous crimes? Well, them know about sleep on bed, and under the little piece of mattress, you put all kind of old clothes under there to get a little comfort, to make the mattress feel a little fluffy. And the young man was talking. You're sleeping on bed, and the mattress is filled with what they call it? The name I know for it is wara, grass. So you're sleeping on, you see roach and thing and bug and things start to crawl. That was the reality. When I heard this surgeon talk about moving from that in the countryside in St. Kitts to, I believe it was either Yale or Harvard, and becoming a surgeon. I said, look at that. Look at that. Because if we believe some of the conversation we hear today, that young man should have been a criminal. That young man should have been saying, we're not now going on for me, look where me born in the ghetto. And so the only thing that that young man could do is sell drugs and take up gun and go shoot people. But instead of that, he was a featured speaker at the Prime Minister's Gala, having come out of one of the top universities in the world as a surgeon. You don't need to go that far. Look around your community. Look around. I went the other day to a celebration for one of the couples that I've admired most in my life in Brownhill, Lizzie and Colo. Celebration that they had. And they were celebrating Lizzie's birthday, but also their togetherness. And I looked at them and I said, look at this. Poor people. They're not rich people. Never hear they win lotto yet. I don't know that they went to any university. But they raised their children. Raise their children, not one of their children. You ever hear mix up in any foolishness? And all the children and grandchildren and everybody came together, and I said, that is what Nevis was. That is what, to a great extent, Nevis still is, and that is what we have to fight for. We got to fight for it. Because what I'm seeing now, the coarseness that has developed, the criminality, and you go down the road, and you, by accident, mash a man, you got to be wondering what the man going to do. You watch a man too hard. Boy, what you watch me for? Everybody know a bad man. Man who will tell you, meet you on the street, the boss will beg your breakfast. And then you hear the same man who beg your breakfast, them say, got Glock. Got 9mm and a lick shot. But you can afford Glock and you can't afford breakfast. That makes sense? How you could afford Glock and you can't feed your picnic? That makes sense? And it's time that our people wake up and understand that these are our realities. And it's blame Tom and blame Dick and blame Harry, blame the government, blame the police, blame everybody, when we ourselves refuse to take responsibility. You think Naya and Angela have any call to be crying tonight because their son is gone? He not come back, you know. Gone. And for what? I did not know the young man well. I don't know whether he was good or bad. That is for God, not for me. What I do know is that somebody would have gone out of their way to attack this young man and another young man with intent to kill them. And in the case of this one who succumbed yesterday, they have succeeded. My question is, for what? For what? And whoever committed the crime, as I said, the police have said to me that they have a clear idea as to who. They're only seeking the evidence. So for the rest of your days, you'll be looking over your shoulder. Because you don't know at what point the law will come for you. So I ask again the question, for what? What is this all for? What does it achieve? Who does it help? And I believe the answer is, it achieves nothing and it helps no one. And that's a sermon you're going to hear from me every time. Because I'm fed up with what is passing and masquerading as ordinary living. Nevis is such a beautiful place. St. Kitts, such a beautiful place. Sometimes, as I go to St. Kitts to work on occasions, and I'm driving on the Southeast Peninsula, and you look and you see Nevis, and you wonder at the awesomeness of God to have created these two beautiful islands. And you reflect on the blessing that we have to be alive today, and to inhabit this paradise here on earth. And yet you have some who, rather than appreciating all that God has given us and the abundance of blessings that we have, they instead are scheming how they could go and do harm to somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, we need your help. The members of the community, we need your help. I have been saying so, and I will continue to say so. The government needs your help. The police and security forces need your help. You must be willing to step up You must be willing to speak to your children. You must be willing to stop defending foolishness. Don't proclaim to the world that Jesus has come back in the image of your son when you know your son is a criminal. Don't do it. We must be willing to stand together in order to ensure that these beautiful islands that we are privileged to call home, that they survive, that they prosper, and that we, the people who are privileged to live here, continue to have the type of society that we can be proud of. And in that regard, let us not make excuses, but let us work together to ensure that we have the type of society that we, all of us, can be proud of. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my soliloquy for tonight. It is 9:47 already, and I could probably have talked for another hour because I'm passionate about this issue of crime and criminality. It serves no useful purpose. Let's open the lines and go to the phones and see who wants to talk to us. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Miss Sheriff.
Good evening to you, our first caller. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good.
Yes.
Psalm 42, verse 1 and 2. Judge me, O God. Plead my cause against a mighty nation. Deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man. For thou art the God and my strength. Why thou dost cast me off? Why done mourning because of the oppression of the enemy? Sympathy is going out to Shamika Budgeon at Jessup Village on the passing of her grandmother, Dacity. She's from Zion, but she resided in St. Martin. Sympathy is going out to Naya and Angela on the passing of their son. Good night to my cousin, my nephew over there in cold, cold Canada. I said good night. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. And I too join in extending sympathies to the Budgeon family. I wasn't aware of the loss of a loved one, but I extend my condolences as well. And certainly I would have spoken earlier to the difficulty in relation to Naya and Angela. And nobody, no parent deserves this. And my heart goes out to them, the people that I know well. And I really feel aggrieved that we continue to have to deal with these types of issues. The numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to come in and say something. We are 10 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock, which means that we have an hour and 10 minutes left. And so we invite you to call so that you can be a part of the show and you can have an opportunity to say that which is on your mind and on your heart. I want to say that on Sunday, I was privileged to attend the Shiloh Baptist Church in Ramsbury. I went with my dear wife and my colleague and brother minister, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, and his entire team from the ministry and the department, for the elderly, seniors division. That's the language I'm looking for. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I want to thank Pastor Wayne Maynard and his wife, the entire Maynard family, for welcoming us. You know, it is one of those things. I'm not a member of that church, but it is a church that I visit most often outside the church that I attend with my wife, because I always feel welcome there. And I think they do a marvelous job in welcoming people, in preaching the word in such a way that you really feel when you've left refreshed. And I want to thank them and to thank Minister Evelyn and his team for the excellent work that they continue to do with the seniors. The seniors program on the island of Nevis is one of the finest in the entire region. I don't hold any water in my mouth to say so. It is one of the finest in the region, and the quality of life of our seniors is second to none. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello, I want to speak to Mark, please.
You're on the air.
Okay, let me go ahead. It's just a joke about again.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, what I was saying is that I just get a joke here, and I just wanted to not be provocative, right? But I heard Mark is saying that he had a girlfriend, and he didn't like her very much, and he go there by her, and the father tell him don't come back. I mean, I thought it was a joke. He's a coward. He ain't gone to the father, he gone to the girl. Well, if he can't go there where she be, he be to some other place, ain't it?
You see, but I was a nice fella.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to him. Tim Division, I want to talk to him. He's a nice fellow. He's too nice.
No, man, he's not too nice. You got to respect. You're crazy. You can't go in anybody's house and the father tell you don't come back. You better don't go back.
I ain't go to the father.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't go to the father, you know. I go to the girl.
Yeah.
Because the girl upset. It's like I see something on a video here, where you find that a girl went to his grandfather's house, and he said, "Good afternoon, grandfather," and he asked, "Who that boy?" He said, "He's my girlfriend. He's my boyfriend," and he get up and slap the man. Slap the man, slap the little boy. Wait, how he could do that? I mean, that he creating problem. You don't think so?
Well, I don't know about that. All I know is when man tell me don't come in the house, I ain't going in the house.
Once a man tell you ain't coming in the house, you ain't coming. Okay,
exactly.
Then, all right, man, I'm going to kill you for that then. But I ain't go to he. I go to the girl.
All right, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
I think my story about this girlfriend is a light story for the night. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening.
How are you, my dear?
Everything all right?
Everything is well. How things with you?
Yeah. I'm kind of all right, too.
Okay.
But I want, number one is thank you because the minister that please to fix up by the airport tower up by Gillard Meadows. Because all them trees there want cut down. Anybody could run to there and you can't see. Nobody. And you have a good night.
Okay.
I try to go on again.
All right. Thank you, my dear. All right. Good. Okay. I'm reminded here, I want to say, it's belated, I know, but a happy belated birthday. 10 years old to my little godchild, Valika, in Bath. She should be in bed by now because it's 9 o'clock. So, Shirley, if you're listening.
Know that they kill one of the family, they go after them. So it's just like that. I mean, I don't understand.
Mm.
They do like they don't last long because somebody coming for them.
Mm.
I don't know why they don't understand.
But that is the problem that I'm having. You know, if you have a child and the child goes and touches a hot stove and gets burnt, that child is unlikely to go back and touch that hot stove because they learn. I don't understand how many more youngsters have to go to jail or be buried before we learn.
What they don't understand.
You know, and for the parents and the what I call the enablers, the girlfriends and the those around them, I continue to ask the same question. Why are they engaged? Because it can be easy when you've encouraged your child to be a bad man and then you end up in the cemetery with them. Or you end up having to go down to St. Kitts every week to see them. It can't be a nice thing. And I may sometimes sound like I'm hard on parents because, believe me, there are good parents out there who just have bad children too.
Well, you have to drill it. You have to take it hard. You have to drill it in there. Drill it in.
But the reality is we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job. And too many people in the society are encouraging by their inaction and sometimes by their direct action encouraging criminality. Right? You see the person breaking into your neighbor's house and you say, let me take that because I don't like my neighbor.
And you're talking about the parents knowing what the kid's doing.
Yes.
But if you guys start searching the home and you find things in the home and you arrest them along with the kid, I bet a lot of that would stop.
Well, let me tell you, huh? Anyway, my brother.
I want to speak a little bit of cricket.
Yes.
Our boy, Mr. What our Navy's opener, because they drop him from the test.
Kyron Powell.
You know, the selectors, they don't know what they're doing, you know.
Tell me.
The man is an aggressive man. He aggressive. He go as an opener. He's too aggressive. Well, instead of picking Darren Bravo, who don't, when was the last time he played cricket? Put him down at number 4. Bravo make 2 runs. I am sure Mr. Powell will make a lot more than 2 runs. Change round the man. Take him from. That's what I did with Viv Richards when Viv Richards first started. They took him from where he was batting and then he started making runs. Do that with Powell. They shouldn't have dropped him. He'd be playing. He was with the team all the time. 30, 40 runs all the time. He's just really, but then he's making runs. Put the man down at number 4, the same position they put Bravo. I hope somebody listening who got connection with the selectors. Put the man at number 4, I'm sure would make runs.
So moving from the opening slot to number 4. Moving from opening to number 4, you're saying?
Yeah, there's where they put Bravo. Bravo and Bravo didn't make it. He only made 2 runs today. Take him from open because he's too aggressive.
How did the match go today?
When I switched channels, there was there was just lose the 5th wicket. There was 200 and something for 5 when I last side. A couple of them made 40 and one made 54. The opener, what they brought in for Powell to replace Powell, I think he's a Powell also from Jamaica. He made 44.
Okay.
So the same amount of runs Powell usually makes.
Kyron, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good. Thank you. Let's go back to the phones. It is 2 minutes to 9 o'clock. You're on the mark. Hello? 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 Hello, you're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good. Could you move the radio side of the internet, whatever, because you're listening to that, you need to listen to the phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed it was your turn for the soapbox tonight.
Well, it's my show, you know, so if there's a soapbox, I should be the one on it.
I agree, totally.
Okay.
All you said is true, right? And it has already been said. But it does bear repeating for one of the techniques used in teaching to aid learning and changing behavior is repetition, okay? I agree that what we are seeing here is foolishness. Young people out for revenge because somebody dissed them or they are in a rival gang, pure foolishness. But you know what else is foolishness? And don't take this personally. The same tit-for-tat, spiteful vindictiveness practiced by our politicians. The same tribal nonsense you all encourage or tolerate.
Yeah, but call it with respect. Yeah. I hear you, and I understand that you always pivot towards the politics. But you cannot compare the two. When I say that, with all the things that Douglas has said about me and I have said about Douglas, I am not taking up any gun to shoot Douglas, and Douglas ain't taking up no gun to shoot me.
No, I
right?
agree.
My point is that we tend to default and say, oh, yes, they're bad and they're doing this, but it's because. No, we must hold people responsible for what they do. If you want a conversation, you're going to say, Mark Brantley is a politician. You have said this, you have said that. That's fine. Deal with me, hold me responsible for what I do. But I find too often, we who are the commentators, we who are influencers, we who try to shape and inform public opinion, we default. So we say, no jobs in the place. That's where the boy them kill one another. Oh, the people poor where you expect. The people come from the ghetto where you expect. Well, look how the politicians them don't behave too. I would prefer, Carla, with respect, I would prefer, since they want to be like the politician, let them cuss each other. Right? Let them cuss each other, because if that's what they say the politicians are doing, then fine. Be like the politician and cuss each other. Because no politician, as far as I know, taking up gun to shoot nobody.
Yeah, but hold on.
Yes, tell me now. Go ahead.
The fact is, right, when you all encourage or tolerate pitting blue against green and that kind of thing, what is the difference between the gangs of youth seeking to identify with one set of thugs? right?
It's not a
And-
question
and
of
the
just
party has-
identifying. Caller, no. I will not allow you to minimize it because it's not a question of people
No,
identifying,
Hear me out. Hear me out.
right? There's violence attached
Yes.
to this.
I'm coming to that.
Yes, go ahead. Come
Hear me
quick.
out, right? Because when the party hacks scream at the opponent and they defend the party colors come hell or high water, the stage is set, okay? What is the difference between gangs taking out the territory and defending the turf and political parties wanting to hug the lion's share of the country's largest for them and their supporters?
Caller,
right?
it is
You see,
fundamentally
okay, yeah,
different.
the point I'm making,
It's
right?
a false narrative that you're drawing. I can't accept that.
Okay. How about this then?
Yes.
Right. You are saying that it's another level. It's just talk, right? That the politicians do. They discuss each other. Okay. But the fact is, we don't manage our adversarial politics well. We don't resort to guns. I agree at that level. But the consequences can be just as severe. I mean, if you take bread out of a breadwinner's mouth just to be spiteful, you might well put a gun to his head and shoot them.
Caller,
You're taking away their dignity.
Call again.
Yeah.
I feel you're trivializing. You're trying to make a point, but in my view, with all due respect, and each week you and I engage, and I enjoy engaging with you. I don't think that you are winning the debate when you're creating these false narratives. You cannot. It's a false comparison that you're making. Let me put it this way. Robert Bratcher was a leader, I think revered by most in the country. Robert Bratcher, from what I was told, I was too young to really learn much in terms of first-hand experience. But from what I was told, Robert Bratcher was no saint when it came to dealing with his political opponents. PAM and Labour in Sinkits have been going at each other for 50 years.
And you don't think that this has some, this is a result of that kind of animosity?
No.
You don't think so?
I am simply saying, I'm not seeking to defend politicians and their behavior. What I'm saying is, there's a fundamental difference between heated debate, sometimes even heated rhetoric, sometimes even wrong-headed debate and rhetoric, and taking up a gun to go and kill people.
But
A fundamental difference.
But I just pointed out that it doesn't stop at the rhetoric. That's the whole point.
But I am not. I
you
have
know
not yet.
somebody called Curtis Cook.
No, I don't know. Who's that?
Okay, that's the guy who Casper or whoever took away his security clearance at the airport. Right.
Right.
I have not heard them issue a statement as to why he's some kind of security risk.
Yes. Okay.
Why in the world would you want to spite somebody simply because he has a loud mouth?
So you assuming all that you've said is correct. I do not know, but assuming it's correct, you feel that that's the equivalent of a young man taking out a gun and shooting down another young man?
But if you want to take the bread out of somebody's mouth, what you doing, Mr. Brenty?
Oh,
who have family, somebody who have family.
Well,
but you see, that's the point, right? Example follow.
Well, that is not. That
remember
is,
last week, right?
Yes.
I told you, if since the Prime Minister was contrite, you should forgive and not twist the knife and pour and rub in salt. That, again, is an example. Because unless the gangs, the youth, forgive each other and agree to bury the hatchet, the same thing gonna continue.
Okay.
And in a practical sense, finally, right? It's really unnerving to know that there are some hardcore, conscienceless criminals walking among us. Okay? You mentioned the U.S., but one of the distinguishing features is that the criminals there seem to get caught, not here.
But why they get caught in the U.S.? Why they get caught?
For a variety of reasons.
But what is the dominant reason?
The police have more information. However they get it, they get
No
it.
matter however they get it, because you and I both know that in those countries the public assists the police.
Of course.
That is how they can say they get caught.
Of course. But you see, down here, and this is where, I mean, you dismiss the fact that it's usually, well, from what we see, the people who gravitate sections of our community. I know you want to dismiss it and say poverty has no...
Caller, I am
hearing
not
on it.
dismissing it. I'm saying it ought not to be an excuse. Because if it were an excuse, I should have been a criminal too.
No.
And
No,
most of the
not-
people in Navy should have been criminals.
Not an excuse, but
Well, it should not be used as an excuse.
But to ignore it.
But I am not saying to ignore it. Poverty is real. I said since biblical times we've had poverty.
Yeah.
But I do not like when I hear people say the reason that boy that killed people because he family poor. I don't buy
it
that.
is not the reason, right? But it could be a reason, and we have to deal with. We keep saying that it's a multifaceted thing.
Yes, and I agree
right?
with you.
And so therefore dealing with it as such, go for all the things that is causing this behavior.
Okay.
Right? Because it may be a small group of criminals doing this, they're creating the mayhem. But until we catch them, right, they're going to continue to do so.
All right.
Okay?
Okay,
We're
we'll
gonna
leave it
deal
there
with
for
all
now.
the facets.
All right, thank you for that. Let's go and take this other call. It is about 7 minutes past of 9 o'clock. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
A blessed evening, my beloved.
Yes, good
How
evening,
are you
you're on
and
the
your
mark.
family?
My family is well, thank you. I trust yours are well as well.
Yes, beloved.
Yes.
Thanks for asking. Now, my beloved, I agree with you with that caller that you had before me. He's of course. Because, brother, times are different, eras are different. But, brother, I am 60 years old, right? And, I didn't really been like poor or anything like that, beloved. Say like middle of the way, my family was. But I have seen in my youthful days people growing up. And the times have changed. Time has changed, beloved brother. People was real poor. Till I used to take my grandmother and grandfather stuff and give them to my friends who was very, very poor, brother. And those young people, brother, they never turned to criminality. Never. And they were some of the brightest people, beloved brother. And up to this day, those people come out, beloved brother, to be some of the most upstanding people in society. But I don't buy this thing that I know poverty creates certain things, but they're not criminals, man. Not criminals, beloved brother. That come from foreign, alien cultures, beloved brother. That come out of the United States, Canada, and Europe. And what they do in the Federation and the rest of the Caribbean, even on the African continent, brother. This is not our people. We are not criminal-minded people. Excuse me. That is foreign to us, brother. So, brother, I am by this thing, but nobody cannot tell me because the amount of jobs and other opportunities that is in the Federation. But where I work in a lot of people from the Dominican Republic. But I don't know where I was born. Beloved brother, they smile. They keep telling me, brother, that their sister, brother, work there and they got 2 and 3 jobs and they're doing fine. My beloved brothers, I don't buy this thing that our young people can't get no jobs. If others could come from outside, you tell me, your nationals can't get no job. Come on. And that's one of the most robust economy in the Caribbean. I don't like to say Latin America. I prefer to say South and Central America. But, I don't buy this thing. And this thing about politician. But you're absolutely right. Look how long I never heard no politician murder anybody. They might give direction or whatsoever. But I've never seen none or heard none of them in the Federation take up a gun and shoot their opponent, beloved brother. Now we got to stop this, man.
But caller, I will go beyond that and say why I so vehemently disagree with that caller. We do not even have a culture of political supporters going at each other. I have never heard in our country anybody say a PAM person kill a Labour person or NRP kill a CCM. Right? It is not part of our culture. Yes, we have debates. Yes, I would admit as a politician myself, sometimes the rhetoric is overly heated, and there are times when we bring more heat than light. I recognize that as a limitation. I have often spoken that the politicians need to raise their game and raise the level of their debate, but I do not accept at all that it is the politicians debating that is causing youngsters to kill each other. That don't make no kind of sense to me.
No, you're absolutely right, my beloved.
As I said,
right.
it is just another effort to scapegoat. Everybody wants a reason why people are acting in the way that they're acting without holding the people themselves responsible. So, Lord, you know, poor people they be. Lord, you know, they're from ghetto. Lord, you know, not go on for them. Lord, is the politician them has set the tone. Well, if the politician has set the tone, then the politician them should be killing each other too. And that is why I said, if the sin of the politicians is to cuss each other, then the youth them cuss each other. I would feel far more comfortable with them cussing each other than them shooting each other. And I don't like this scapegoatism, this effort by many to find an excuse for bad behavior. Hold the people who are engaged in bad behavior accountable for their bad behavior. Hold them accountable.
Absolutely right, beloved. You know, our parents and guardian, the parents and guardian, brother, they must take responsible. They must take responsibilities for their children too, beloved, brother. You know, your son or daughter only work for say $1,000 a week, and you look, the son or daughter thinking a Mercedes Benz, doing this and that, but they will be benefiting and pop car. I hear a lot of things, brother, that 15 and 16-year-old is giving their parents and guardians hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars a week. So that's why, brother, everything, all the evil that going down, those parents and guardians is saying anything because they are the beneficiaries of that. But let me say something in close. I know someone else wants to speak. But, you know, we're coming up on the 84th anniversary of the Great Buckley's uprising of 1935. But I hear you got a committee in place. But we need to build a monument. We need to pay tribute to our great ancestors, man. Because, beloved, you know you're intelligent, man, and you know 1935, after the uprising, but it's spread like wildfire across the Caribbean, even into South America, Guyana, to be exact, beloved brother. And we must pay tribute to those three people who lost their lives, who were murdered. Let me say murder. I'm not talking about no shooting, murder. And those who stand up, beloved brother, we must always pay tribute to our ancestors. And I don't know if anyone from the U.S. is still alive. I doubt it. I don't know. You know, but if any is still alive, brother, we must pay tribute to them and build a great monument in their remembrance, beloved brother. Beloved brother, thanks again for hearing me. Pan-Africanism will perish. One of continue to listen.
All right, brother. I've just got a note here that the Nevis Amateur Basketball Association had elections last night. You see, elections. People like elections, you know. Elections sweet. Newly elected members. Miss Jaquita Thomas is the secretary. Mr. Freddie Hanley. Boy, Freddie used to dunk hard. You couldn't stop him. President. Miss Veronica Brandy, vice president. Mrs. Govani Manners Hendrickson, assistant secretary. Mr. Kelvin Bramble, assistant treasurer. Mrs. Shakima Parry, France. But she add on the France now. Shakima Parry, France, treasurer. And Ms. Shoya Lawrence is the PRO. They will serve for 5 years. But this really politics. 5 years. 5 more years. Through basketball we fight crime. Continue to be our motto. So, through basketball we fight crime. Quite apropos for what we're discussing this evening. They're imploring the various communities to get their children involved as they seek to develop the youths in the sport. And of course, Kelvin Bramble is hosting the Brownhill Basketball Tournament. Start date, January 26th. And it's sponsored in part by Brownhill Communications, and I intend to, Kelvin, whatever I can do. You've spoken to me already. I'm going to provide some sponsorship as well. Game time, Sundays and Saturdays, doubleheader, 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Bronx Crisis. I'm going to say something here. I know my man of business here in the studio with me was a basketball player for Dominica. Now, you know how I know he was not a good basketball player? Dominica so mountainous, you can't get no basketball court in Dominica. You got to be running downhill. And if you're running downhill and say you're dunking, that ain't no dunk, because ain't nowhere in Dominica you can find enough space for flat space. The venue, the Brownhill basketball court, they got halftime prizes and all that. So it's going to be fantastic at Brownhill basketball court. It's going to be fantastic over there, and we're asking people to go on out. And we congratulate Shakima France. She says she named Shakima Paris France, but she recently got married. You know, I love her. She's a hard worker. She has kept basketball going. Veronica Brandy, hard worker, kept basketball going. Basketball right now is doing well, and I'm happy to see people like Freddie are back, because Freddie was a monster player in his day, and everybody is being playing a partner in basketball, and I really like the energy and encourage the young people indeed to get involved. Brownhill is going to be a great tournament. Let's go back to the phones. We have anybody holding? Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, brother.
Yeah. Now, all of us agree that we have a problem, okay? If you have a problem, if you don't understand the problem, you would not be able to solve it. I'm asking you, why do you think the youth are doing these things? I mean, have you? I know you're a lawyer, not a psychologist or anything like that, but why do you think these things are happening?
Well, I believe, as you said, there are a variety of reasons, right? I think that lack of education sometimes, lack of opportunity, lack of parenting, lack of supervision. If you grow up in a household where nobody has ever pointed out to you what is right and what is wrong, what is appropriate behavior, some children are abused, and therefore they grow up in an environment of violence. There are a number of factors. What my point throughout this evening has been, or sought to be, maybe I'm not as articulate as I would like to be, but what my point is, that we are very quick as a society to find excuses for bad behavior.
But is it excuses, or are we trying to pinpoint what understand the problem, what causes this?
Yes, but what I'm saying is at some point, we have to take responsibility. And a lot of us got licks, for example, when we were youngsters. I don't know if you got, but I got a lot. I was mischievous, and they looked at me.
Still is.
No. I'm matured now. But I was mischievous, and had my parents took very seriously that admonition about sparing the rod and spoiling the child. Right? Got a lot of licks. Nowadays, I tell you, if you use any kind of physical violence to discipline your children, then those children are going to turn out bad. My simple point is this, caller. All of us would have faced adversity. And the reason why I went through this long talk about what we went through as youngsters is because I want the public to understand that you see Mark Brantley walking down the road now in a tire, driving in a car, and you say, oh, he's doing well. It wasn't always so. You see Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so walking downtown in her high heels and a nice suit, and you say, oh, yeah, it wasn't necessarily always so. People overcome adversity. People work hard. My concern is that there are too many in this society who are willing to give bad behavior a free pass by pointing to where the people are from. Oh, well, you know, he come out of the ghetto. Oh, well, you know, this and that. And I am saying that it's high time.
But we can't ignore the stats, though, that most times that's where they come from.
Well, it may be that most times that's where they come from, and perhaps it is a self-perpetuating myth, because you start to say to people that if you come from a certain place, that is the altitude that you can expect. And that is why I use the example of the surgeon, Dr. Redman, because I believe that if he had been persuaded as a youth that where he came from was the extent of where he could reach, he wouldn't have graduated from Yale or Harvard, I can't remember which, and be a top surgeon today. The simple point that I'm making, caller, we can point to a number of factors as to why we think people do what they do. But the society as a whole must start to say to people, you are accountable. Your mother used to beat you as a child, your father used to abuse you and treat you badly as a child? Yes. Should we just ignore it? No. You need a psychological or psychiatric assistance, make that available. But at the end of the day, we have, speaking generally now, in a broad way, to say to people, listen, there gets to a point in life where you have to pull yourself up sometimes by your own bootstraps.
The unfortunate thing, though, Mr. Brandley,
yes.
People like you and Dr. Redman are more exceptions than the rule.
I don't agree with your
individual,
caller. Huh? I don't agree with you at all.
You don't agree?
No. Because when I look...
we can't point to more examples?
No, hear what I'm saying. It may not be that everybody went on to Yale and Harvard. It may not be that everybody went on to be doctors and lawyers, to the extent that those are considered to be good professions, quote unquote, right? But what I can say, that I can't think of one person who I carry water with on my head, who I pitch marbles with in Brownhill when I moved here. I can't think of one who has been ever involved in violent crime. Yes, I've known fellows who they do a little this and they do a little that, they smoke some weed and the police catch them. But I don't know of anyone, and I'm speaking across the board, who has involved him or herself in violent crime. And that tells me that despite the fact that all of us did not get an opportunity to go to university, and many of us did not do well in school, we did not, as a result, become criminals. And that is the point that I'm trying to get to. How is it that that generation of people who were plagued by all the things, let me tell you, I know man used to get beat with yard boom. What do you think from the coconut tree name? When you get one of that is 100 you get because each little strand hit you, right?
That was self-perpetuating.
Well,
and you see, that's the whole point.
But my point is...
You may feel that that's the best way to bring them up.
But, Paul, I'm not saying it's the best way. I'm trying to draw the reference that with all that all of us endured, I can't think of one person from Handys Road or one person from Brownhill who ever involved himself in violent crime. And that is what we went through. Parents beat us. We had nothing to eat. We scrounged, poverty like you wouldn't believe. Right? And we never resorted to that. So all I'm saying is that and that alone cannot now become a scapegoat for what we're seeing.
Well, the thing is, though, we don't understand it. We still haven't put our hand, we haven't gotten a handle of why it is happening. And one of the things we have to watch out for is because people have expectations, right? Every single individual have an expectation, right? It may be an unrealistic or unreasonable expectation, but they have them anyhow, right? People may call it jealousy and envy. People may call it whatever they want, but the fact is, if they don't live out their expectations, we don't know what they will do. Some people turn to crime. Some people turn to other things. But the fact is, it's individuals we're dealing with. And yes, it may be a small group, but until we get a handle on why it is happening, which was why I made that intervention in the first place, you have to look at everything, right? Okay, until we get a handle on it, I don't think we're going to be able to solve it, right? Why people do what they do, I don't know. I don't think you apparently know either. Well, right? All we can do is put more intervention to try and prevent and stop it, prevention and detection, right? We're not going to eliminate it altogether, but I mean this is really it's strange, right? And of course, you realize that it's a Caribbean phenomenon, right? So it's nothing that we can say is peculiar to saying it's a Nevis, because that's the other dimension to it, right? Which is why because the only common thread is the source of these criminals, right? And that is why I'm saying that we should pay a lot more attention to there's no reason right now that we should have anything called a ghetto, right? That is where the poverty alleviation program should be really centered on, okay? Not on spreading it across the board like what was done. Get into these centers and uproot the poverty. I mean, it's very unlikely that you hear people coming from so-called better areas committing these crimes, right?
Kola, I don't agree necessarily, because maybe I'm privy to a bit more information.
What else is the common thread?
But
look to the Caribbean. How come they have the same? What is happening? What do you think is happening that all of us have the same problem?
Well, I feel that there are a number of reasons. I've spoken to a few.
You mean parenting throughout the Caribbean gone to the dogs?
Yes.
I mean,
yes. It is a problem throughout the region. There's a coarseness. There's a access now to a lot of mind material that alters our thinking.
Okay, even if it's something like that.
Well, but I'm simply saying.
Is there something that we can do about that?
Right. Well,
can we control things like TV content and those kinds of things?
But Carl, let me ask you. Who's the best positioned people to control those things? We I think, are going to get back to the same place where it started. The parents, the caretakers, the people who are in the homes with people, children, when them bark and they're 2 months old and then 2 years old and then 4 years old, etc., that is when the attitudes start to be ingrained in them. So
aren't you doing the same thing you accuse me of, scapegoating? Because let me tell you, I mean, and you can think back to your childhood too. If our parents knew the kind of stuff that we did, I mean, the hair would fall out, okay?
Well, you sound like
it's just that they have.
You sound like you were particularly bad. So don't include me with that. Say it then know what you did.
No. But you know what you did too.
Listen.
Haven't you done things that you know your parents would not have approved of?
All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just that the consequences of doing that now, I mean, is that you're on social media with nude bodies everywhere. All sorts of weird things happen, right? And so the consequences are different.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave that there. We have some more callers calling in. Okay? Thank you. It's 9:30. Let's take some more calls. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good night to the Honorable Premier, Mark.
Good evening to you.
Yes, Mark. I listened to your opening statement, and you sound so passionate and with what takes place in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis again. Mark, some of these young people who shooting down one another and in this violence, they don't even listen to politics. They don't even aware what's going on with the politics in this country. You understand? They don't listen to nothing. These people, they got the phone with the kind of music from them playing. How do they listen to violence? If you drive on a passenger bus, Mark, you don't hear, you very seldom hear any one of them busmen, unless he's an elderly one, playing something positive on the radio, playing the radio. All kind of violence music to hear, Mark. But Mark, you know, some people, they run the political line. Mark, I am a concerned citizen of this country, and my heart goes out to what's going on with our young people in the Federation, Mark. And to be truthful, Mark, as an ordinary man, right near the university, near the college, I support the school, Trinity Early School.
And you ever kill anybody?
Never kill nobody.
Okay. You ever rob anybody?
Never rob nobody. Got to go look at when we go 14 years. And Mark, I will tell you this. I have go around and talk to a lot of these young men in town. All our things, in some of them are coming near and all, and ask them the problem. What all the problem is. Mark, I don't fit to front them. And that caller was just here with you long time there on the radio. Like he was a farmer teacher. He should come out and do some education. He should go on instead of talking and running the political line. He should do that. You understand? But you see, Mark, I'm going to tell you in this country now, everybody want to things to done, but they want to come on and talk and run the political line, and then whosoever win when election come now, and the government who succeed, the party who succeed, they get in there, is a different story, a different talk. It's a different talk. Now this crime was going on all the time. Robbing, stealing was going on all the time. Mark, you all gone, there's a unity government, and you all showing you all endeavor best to call back what's going on with these young men in this country. And I believe, can't you, a lot of these parents have to do with it. It ain't a politician. These young men, they don't listen to nothing but politics. They don't even know what's going on with the politics in the country, some of them. You understand? But I think the politicians meet some of them, you know. Politicians meet some of these young men and, you know, try to get them involved and get them to vote and, you know, put them in all kind of thing and tell them all kind of things. So that's why I see a lot of these young men don't want to work in think it. And even they want to work. Because it's what politicians tell them. In the past, Mark, I'm telling you, politicians make them feel that they can get money without work. That's why the pet program and all of these things they use. You understand? Before they go out and encourage these young men to go out and look a job, below the trade on the construction site, below the trade in the hotel, below the trade in somewhere where academically you can learn something. No, they don't want that. A lot of these politicians, they do these things to these young men. So he's speaking about whatever he think about whatever these young men do and politicians. But in the past, I believe that people, if you were speaking out, I believe that these young men in the Federation, they'll get a better understanding of what's going on. You understand? Anyway, Mark, if I get back in, God bless you, brother.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for that. 25 minutes to the hour, 10 o'clock. And we're taking your calls on 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. This is Mark Brantley, and if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, Voice of Nevis, VON Radio, www.vonradio.com or 860 on your AM dial. We're also streaming live on Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel as well. And so you can listen us, you can watch us, you can do both. You can enjoy the show in so many different ways. We're coming to you live and lively from right here at VON Radio Nevis. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Mark, good night.
How are you, my dear?
I'm fine.
Yes.
The Bible said, right? Train up a child in the way he should go, that when he come old, he will never depart from it. Vicky train you up as a child, and you come a young man, and you never depart from it. And somebody now, who, I don't know how they train up, they want to pull you backward. Let me tell you something, you continue go forward. Good night.
Thank you very much for that. And you're absolutely right. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and he shall not depart from it. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, Mark. Good evening.
Good evening to you.
And how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, this is the first time I'm calling in for the new year, speaking to you for the new year. So let me wish you and your family, the administration in Nevis, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, all the best for the year 2019. Mark, you would have started out this evening's program, which you spoke, and I have to commend you for this excellent presentation, speaking about something that is very serious and vital to our country, which in terms of security and the safetyness of our people. But when you're going to have a few vagabonds living among us, only a few that are making the over 50,000 people more uncomfortable, not making any contribution which is in the best interest of our country. And when we're going to have a caller, a few callers before, he goes on every program campaigning for the Labour Party. That is what he does, campaigning for the Labour Party. But if I was a member of the Labour Party, I would have to speak out seriously because he's doing that party a lot of harm. But that is their problem. Is that the kind of representation that they want, then they can continue. And also, let me just say, because there are some people, not too many, who are still thinking that Douglas is coming back. Well, the only thing that is close to, which is only in their pipe dream, because that will never be a reality. But we have a lot of serious issues to really deal with and to speak about. And let me also say, because, you know, on this program and Vaughan Radio, you only supposed to call it right. A caller called before, and he spoke in reference to the cricket. And I just want to say that the West Indies team ended day one with 264 for 8. He also mentioned in reference to the opening batsman, but he called a wrong name. The opening batsman is Campbell and not Powell. Replacing Powell is Campbell replacing Powell. So I just want him to get that information.
280 something for 8?
264 for 8.
264, wow.
After winning the toss and batted first at the end of day one, which is in a decent position, not bowling out and at the end of day one. It is a decent position, not a very strong position, but it's a decent position where they can just continue to build. And this with the 2 wickets left, try to see how far they can extend into the number 2. And they just have to take it today. He spoke about Darren Bravo, but I'll leave the cricket for another time. I just want to say, because the crime is something that I take very seriously, and I mean, I would have spoken many times about this situation, crime, and people don't understand when they commit crime how much they cost in the country when somebody gets shot or somebody gets killed. Because as I said, every loss creates a cost, and somebody has to bear that cost. It's either the family or the country. Somebody has to bear that cost. And when you lose your loved one, which in life there are 2 things. One can either die too soon or one can live too long. And many have died too soon, unexpectedly, and they have gone, never to return. Never to return.
All right, brother.
A burden and their family. So we need to really get serious. And as I said, these people who are committing the crime, they're not listening to the program. They're not listening to the sense that you are speaking about, how they're hurting our nation by the image and by other things. I am saying that there are many factors where crime would be committed, and people are getting children. There are many, but the most important thing is the home. And when people are going to get children at the wrong age, at the wrong stage, for the wrong reason, with the wrong person, and then there are other ways where the crime would be thinking, because they are not leaders in the home. There are many homes, are many buildings which are in the communities which are not home. Many people think because somebody live in the building is a home, but there are more things that it needs in a home to be a home. There are people who have children, and because they have children, they want to be called mothers. But I wish if many had to do an exam to be a parent, many of them would have failed the test, because many of them definitely do not have what it takes, and that is creating a serious burden on the nation. It is not just the government, it is not just the church, it is not just the community, it is not just the school, but most importantly, because there are things that are important, there are things that are equally important, and there are things that are most important. And what is the most important things when it comes to an individual, to a child, to a family, is the home. They don't live in the school, they don't live in the church, they don't live with the government, they live in the community, and we're in the community, in the home. And that is where every single person who commit a crime, this is where they live. They live live with somebody. Most of them, if not all of them, live with somebody. And it's because of the lack of leadership, lack of management, no direction. These are what causing the serious problem, and money which are spent on crime could be spent with our more important things, which are education, agriculture, tourism, and one of the most important things when it comes to a human, which is health. These are things where our country's resources should be spent on, and not dealing with crime, because when somebody gets shot, that is a lot of cost and a lot of resources at the hospital. People are calling when they should be having the time off unexpectedly, because people are being irresponsible as citizens, making irresponsible decisions as citizens, and then causing havoc on our nation.
All right, brother, we have to leave it there. Hello? We have to leave it there. We have other people who are holding. So thank you very much for your contribution. Passionate and much appreciated.
Okay.
Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mark. This is Marlin.
Hi, good evening.
You're having a good show.
Thank you very much.
I'm just calling on behalf of Gino. I'm still wondering up to now, Mark, who have done that injustice to my hard-working son.
Mm-hmm.
Hard-working son, Mark. You know, Mark, you know how long that boy is working? Since he going to school.
Mm-hmm.
Since he going to school. Let's listen me careful, Mark. I bought his primary school book and his secondary school book. I didn't buy his sixth form book, and I didn't buy his college book. He bought them himself. He hustled. Mark, I tell you, hustle every Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, he cutting people yard. Cutting people yard, Mark, to make $1. He take up himself, he go to St. Kitts, he sell it, sugar apple, mango, pear, whatever he get, Mark. That young man hustle, and when he come back, he say, Mommy, I done buy me book them, you know. I say, don't buy your book them? He said, Mommy, you know what these book cost? Sometimes he tell me some of them cost 200, 300. I say, glory be to God. You know what I tell you, Mark? And all I know, people still asking me what day he's coming back. Because they say they miss him from down by the roundabout. They miss him. You understand? That boy work very, 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 very hard, Mark. And all I know, I'm still wondering who have done that injustice to my child. But there is a God. And God see and he knows everything, Mark. He's up there. He costed me a lot of money, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And me involved to nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Costing me a lot of money to keep him up in the States, I'm telling you. You understand? But I'm not crying to nobody.
How's he doing, though?
He's in rehab. They're trying to get him back.
Okay.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not complaining. But when you see them, up to last night somebody called me from the States, you know, Motley one gone again. Me say, what do you mean by that? He said, man, one gone again. And me don't hear nothing. It does not sound right, Mark. It does not sound right, and it's not sending a good message. It's not fair, not because it happened to my child. I don't want to hear it happen to nobody. Nobody at all. It's not nice. And my child didn't deserve that at all. And he works very, very, very,
well,
very
not only
hard.
that, I mean,
asking what time he coming back.
Not only that, somebody said to me about him that he say help everybody.
He helps everybody.
Yes.
Sometimes when he come back in, Mark, I say, why will you do? You sell off? He said, no, man, me not sell off. We say, when you do the things, he said, man, me give them away. Man, me only little food, me give them away. We said, just give us all the time, sir. He said, man, that not going to make me no poorer. That's how I be. You understand?
Okay.
But anyway, he coming along. But it costing a lot, me tell you, Mark. It's not easy.
All right. Thank you, Motlin.
Yes.
Thank you. And God bless you. And I
Yes,
trust and
bye.
hope we continue to pray for his full recovery. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Blessed good evening.
Yes, you need to move away from your radio, please.
Yes, blessed good evening, Honorable Mark Band.
Good evening to you.
I hear you loud and clear.
Yes.
But let me tell you, one of the biggest problems in the Federation is the general confusion that they teach other people.
The general confusion what?
that we teach other people. When I hear you as candidate, you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear. Go ahead.
I say, well, Mark Brandley sound good. Sound like you got a solution for the crime. You hear me? Sound even like a man who deserves a chance to sit in the chair. But now you sit in the chair and with Mark Brandley, I see you still supporting the same foolishness that was happening under Denzel Douglas. The same foolishness that was happening under Ken Simmons. So I have sit down now and I watch 38 years of foolishness by 3 different administrations. You hear me? Every youngster that go to join the police force go with the intention that they're going to lock up a Rasta man for her. The government and all focus the attention on locking up the Rasta man for her. And everybody joyful to see the Rasta man get locked up for her. That was the work of the police. They wasn't worrying with nothing else. 38 years of foolishness, Honorable Mark Brandley, called crime fighting strategy. When the police supposed to deal with the crime and the criminal activity, the police in the hills and the valley, Honorable Mark Brandley, you hear me?
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah. The police in the hills are hiding a grass or arrest people who plant bush. God creative bush in its natural state. When I see murder is free in the Federation and Bush is trouble, I say, the nation gone dead.
What do you mean murder is free?
Murder is absolutely free.
What do you mean by that?
Nobody again in trouble for no murder. Which part in the same people again in trouble? As a matter of fact, you don't even know who a murder. Who commit the murder.
So that's why you say it's free?
It is free. Nobody investigate nothing more no murder around here.
Okay.
Because all our intention, we focus was on arresting the Rasta man for Bush. 38 years I watch that happen now. He hurt me deep within when I see them foolishness that happen for so long for people who consider themselves as educated people. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right, caller, we got your point. Thank you very much. You're suggesting, of course, that people being arrested for marijuana, that is foolishness. You know, we may debate all day, all night about the correctness or otherwise of the laws in relation to marijuana. But I've always said the law is the law until it is changed. And so what we're now talking about, as you know, we've had a marijuana commission. That commission, I gather, has now submitted a report to the government with certain recommendations. And so the process is moving. So I don't think you need to lose heart or lose faith. And I believe that as things change, as situations that we might find objectionable change, the society changes and the laws will change. It's as simple as that. And I think we just need to sometimes appreciate that there's a process, and what you consider to be foolishness, that has been the reality for some time. Marijuana, whatever we want to say about it, is still a Class A drug, still classified as a dangerous drug by the United Nations. And so we have to understand that there's a process to this. I'm not here speaking about my personal opinion. I'm simply saying that there's a process. So let us work together to find a solution rather than attacking each other, because I did not make the law about marijuana. I didn't create it. I met it, and you met it too. And so the reality is that we must now see what can be done in line with the submissions and the recommendations of the Commission. Let's go back to the phones. We have 8 minutes left. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good night, good evening, Mark again.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, Mark, yeah. I hear Mortland just now, my good friend. I just want to give me number to give me a call. Mortland, my number is 660-5901. Mr. Politics.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's take some more calls. The phones are going crazy this evening. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello, could you just step away from your radio, please?
Yes, Honorable Mark Brand, blessed man.
Yes, blessed to you.
Yes. Mm.
Hello?
Wow. Honorable Mark Brand.
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, man, bless. What we could do now, right? You hear me?
Yes.
To deal with the crime situation, it can't be no one organization. Everybody got to work with the crime because this thing now is totally out of hand. So every one of us have to work with that. So we got to come together as a people now and decide from what point we're going to tackle it. Because you them don't even hear us right now. You hear me?
Yes, caller, we're hearing you. Let's go ahead.
They ain't even hearing us.
Mm.
They is totally off course. Listening type of music that we allow them to play. Hear the focus of what them are listening and I get to the basis. Brother, it is sickening. It is very, very sickening. And government should have banned enough of these tunes that them you might listen to. Most of the focus of government is just to see how well they could do for themselves, and the family, Most of the focus of government, and when I say government, we're talking about all, not some. And and that's where the problem lies.
Okay. All right, caller. I agree with you that everybody needs to play a role. I think we do need to get together. And I do believe that the only way we're going to beat this problem is doing it together. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening. You're on the mark. Okay, we've lost that caller. Okay. Callers, we have about 6 minutes left. If you have something to say, this is the time now to get in because we're going to wrap the show in the next 6 minutes. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Premier.
Good evening to you.
Gosh, man, I must have dialed you 100 times.
Well, you're in now.
everyone's pace.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Yes, I must commend you for your statement, and your strong statement. Maybe you need to put it up on Facebook since the youth love Facebook.
Mm.
Now, what I called you for, though, it has to do with your position as the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
I guess you would have heard today what happened in Venezuela.
Yes.
When the leader of the opposition announced himself as the interim president.
Yes.
And the U.S. instigation and Canada and other people have said they are backing him. Now, we have certain agreements with President Maduro in terms of Petro-Carib and other projects. And I am waiting to hear, I don't know if it's going to be a joint thing, as to the stand of the CARICOM or OECS in the matter, because America has begun to round up and pressure people into taking sides. And every country does what is best in their own interest. Every country. There's no apology for it. People do what is in their best interest. So they can't say, well, they can't make us do what we don't want to do. And it is so sad because I am saying to myself, we're just beginning to come out of the recession. And to bring all this conflict into the region, it is so disheartening.
Mm.
Very, very disheartening, Because they said everything is on the table. diplomacy force anything. And here you have all of these small islands and the Central and South America trying to claw their way out of a recession, and the U.S. and its allies are bringing the thing right at our doorstep. So I expect you, the Prime Minister and everybody else and the other countries, to have a position on the matter. That's what I called you about.
Thank you very much for that.
All right then.
All right. I think that these are all fast moving. I purposefully did not address it this evening because I have not been fully briefed myself. But you are correct. The United States and others are seeking to install the opposition leader as the president of Venezuela. As a matter of fact, I'm hearing that President Maduro, who has been elected and sworn in, has asked the United States diplomats to leave. And the United States has responded to say that they will not have their diplomats leave because Maduro is not the president. The leader of the opposition is the president. So it is, in my view, I understand all the arguments that are being made, but I think that these are matters that have to be assessed very carefully because it can set a very dangerous precedent. Could we imagine here in St. Kitts and Nevis that after an election that is disputed, the United States or Canada or whoever says, well, this person is the Prime Minister. We don't care who has been sworn in. We don't care who the electoral officials have said. We say that this person is the Prime Minister. It means that people and leaders will be selected by other countries. And this, I think, is a very tricky thing. It's a very dangerous precedent, and we have to look carefully at it. But I think, caller, once I've been briefed more fully, I'll have an opportunity to speak more sensibly on it. We have time for one more call. Yes, let's take this last call. Caller, you're the last caller.
Yes, blessed and honorable Mark Wantley.
Yes.
Yeah. Grandma used to chop us, right? And catch it. You call that abuse. That is right way. The natural psyche of the youth them change. And then the criminal act.
Okay. Caller? Okay, we look like we've lost. We have a minute more. Okay. All right. Well, it looks as if, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We've come to 10 o'clock. I regret that call. I don't know, somehow I was wanting to hear you finish your point. But thank you to all the callers. Thank you to those who rang in and were part of the show. Remember, of course, the basketball tournament kicks off in Brown Hill on the 26th. And I would want to wish everyone a pleasant night, a good night's rest, God's continued mercies and blessings upon us, and that He may grant us all wisdom, particularly those of us who are in leadership positions, that we may have the necessary wisdom to make the right decisions to take our country forward. Thank you, good night, and God bless you. And just remember that this show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, the Eastern Caribbean's only